Welcome. We're going to show you today how to turn up the heat on your trade show content. And again, more specifically, how to turn your trade show booth into a hub for content that meets your business and your marketing goals. Now, if you all have any questions while we are presenting here today, go ahead and do the little hand raise here in Zoom. I'm happy to stop and answer any questions, or honestly, just interrupt me. I don't mind. I won't take it personally. So let's jump in. All right. So we're talking trade shows, folks, right? Boom. Trade shows are huge. They're the lifeblood of B2B. It's hard to overstate that, and I won't belabor the point, right? They're still the spot for networking. They're the spot for showcasing your company, your brand, right? For meeting other businesses, for creating new partnerships, for establishing authority. And yet, right, content still feels like a bit of an afterthought, right? Content is key, though. This is a little timeline of me. You can see a little baby me there, locking in some podcasts. But the trade show is the perfect spot to capture great quality content, right? With your internal subject matter experts, with folks in your industry, with thought leaders, with influencers, even maybe some passionate debate with some competitors. Who knows, right? Extending the impact of your trade show presence means capturing content and then doing something with it. And so at the end of the day, you really need your content to serve your business goals, right? That is the priority here. You need your content to serve your business goals, not have content be sort of an extra add-on of a pressure while you're at the trade show or feel disjointed, right? So what are those real business goals while you're at the trade show? Well, you need lead generation, right? You need networking and community, brand awareness, industry education, right? You're there to generate sales. You're there to show off what you've got, how it stacks up to the competitors, and you're there to let people know who you are, what you stand on, and what problems you solve, right? So again, these are the business goals. But even then, even understanding business goals and even understanding that content is important and something you should be capturing at the trade show, it still feels like an afterthought, right? We know why. It makes sense, right? I feel it myself when I go as just a journalist to go capture content. And that's that capturing trade show content can be tough and it can be disjointed, right? So these might feel familiar to you. You've got a lack of personnel, right? And you're the marketing leader and you got to capture all the content yourself, right? Compared to other goals at the booth, like lead gen or explaining your products, content feels tertiary, not even secondary. It's just not even on the map, right? Too many other things to balance. Content capture always falls on one person's shoulders, right? Okay, junior marketer, go to town, capture everything. How realistic is that when your content needs to solve different business goals? There's too many trade shows and you only hone in on the one, right? With so many trade shows to attend, smaller ones maybe don't get any content attention. You put all your money towards a big shoot at one show, but what about the smaller ones where maybe you have more face time with people and where content could actually serve a more powerful role in differentiating you from the rest of the folks at the show? And just overcomplicated, right? Content feels overcomplicated. There's too many moving pieces. And when you do execute on it, it's a month-long process of planning. And therefore, it's just not something that you can scale. And let's not even talk about the resource misalignment, right? Feels kind of silly that there's so much money spent on a booth, on badges, on travel, on amenities, on post-show dinner and some beers, right? And after all that, there's little to show for it. Where's the content? Where's something that you can leverage long-term and make into an evergreen strategy for meeting your business goals? So when we talk content, right, you need content strategies that solve for all of those challenges, the things holding you back from capturing content at the trade show, right? You need content strategies that are going to solve for a lack of personnel, for parallel priorities, decentralized content capture, a repeatable workflow you can execute over and over. You need a content strategy that keeps it simple, and you need a wise investment of resources. So that's why my argument here and what I'm going to walk through is that the best way to blend your business goals with content and actually make content an extension of those business goals at the trade show is to turn your booth into a true content hub, a hub of content capture where multiple parties and stakeholders are activated and are essentially turned into content creators or voices that you platform through content and start to massage that relationship and deliver a cool win for the folks attending the audience, right? Or attending the trade show, excuse me. So leveraging Studio, right, which is your already existing toolkit of decentralized content creation. If you don't have Studio already and you're a prospect here, hit me up after this and I'll connect you with the right folks. But I'm assuming most people here have access to MarketScale Studio. Well, using our toolkit of decentralized content creation, you can make this whole process straightforward so that you can really focus on how content connects with the booth experience. Because that's really what we're talking about here, right? Content as a downstream from a strategy around crafting a good booth experience that turns content into that experience maker. And again, Studio is going to keep it simple for you so that you can focus on the good stuff. So we need to map out a trade show content strategy that you can all put to work immediately, right? That empowers, that connects, that creates, that repeats, and elevates. Okay, let's get a little more specific, right? You need a content strategy that's going to empower your teammates to create. So it's not just one person creating content, it's your teammates, it's your community. You need a strategy that's going to connect directly to your business goals. You want more lead gen? How can content help me with lead gen? You want brand awareness? How can content help me with brand awareness, right? You want a strategy that's going to give you a runway of content, long-term content you can repurpose. So not just focused on coverage of the show, but then how does this help further our brand? How can this be used in the sales funnel? How can this be used to help with hiring? Whatever it might be. Repeatable, right? You want to do this not just at the one big show for the year, but all the small ones too, and all the medium ones in between. And you need a strategy that is going to elevate your presence at the show. We all know the pain of you put in all this work at the trade show and then you sit there for 2 days and you barely get anyone coming by the booth, right? No matter how much promo you gave, right? Because everyone's kind of in the same boat. What booth should I turn to? Often it's the ones with some energy, with some pizzazz, with something extra on top of a good product and service that stand out and draw attention. So where do you start? I've been saying this again, but let's just turn it into an actual step. Step one is you should be rethinking how content can serve your business goals. Okay, so first thing to do before you sit down to execute on any kind of content strategy, as you're organizing your whole team to go to the trade show, think, what are your priorities at this trade show? Right? What are the key priorities that you have? What are going to be your KPIs for this trade show? Right? Is it going to be lead gen? Is it networking? Maybe it's brand awareness. Maybe it's you need to establish authority in the industry. Maybe it's just simple product education or a mix of all of these. Map them out, get focused, and identify again, how can content serve those goals? Right? Not content as a separate strategy. We need to have a just content strategy for the marketing team, but rather how can content be a tool that serves those goals? And then how can you make your booth become that content hub where content helps serve those goals? So that's step one, just getting the mindset, right? So that you can hone in on the booth experience, because that's really the answer here, right? Is a solid booth experience where content, again, starts working for you. So step two then is to connect content with your booth presence. And what are some ways to do that? Well, here is a high-level rundown, right? You could turn your booth into a hub for in-booth product demos, right? Testimonials, thought leadership interviews. You could podcast out of your booth, mass community engagement at your booth, little culture content, right? And general show event coverage can all happen at your booth and can all become tools that help you meet your trade show business goals, which are often sales goals, right? So now step three is how do you leverage Studio to do this, right? You will leverage Studio to decentralize and scale content capture. So now let's get into the weeds on some of these, right? I'm going to give you some examples of each of these content types and what they might look like in practice and the workflow or the strategy for actually executing on that. And you'll find that it's all rather simple. So first up, let's have, some culture content in the mix. Culture content, what does that really mean? It just means have some fun at your booth, right? It means turn your booth into a place that isn't just for communicating the core basics of your product, but rather think outside of the box. How can my booth reflect the culture of my team, sprinkle some fun into the mix, and actually keep my employees engaged, my colleagues engaged, because nothing's going to keep folks away from your booth more than a team of bored people sitting at a table, right? So let's have some fun, right? I'll show you here an example of a video that I think captures that fun. And you'll see that this isn't all cinematic content, right? It's all user-generated content. And you'll see some of the fun booth attractions that really caught my eye, right? So again, straightforward, capturing the show, getting in the mix, and more importantly,
I'm Mary Crowder with BMS Cat. I'm coming to you
Mary's
live from
rocking the
Philadelphia,
boxer swag.
2024. You love and adapted
they turned their booth
robes. We
into
were able
sort
to
of a
give away and
boxing
raffle
attraction.
off to a participant here signed Mike
Fun
Tyson
stuff.
boxing gloves. The BOMO Association is one that really partners prominent business.
Okay, so, right, a kitschy attraction, right? Why does this matter? Well, anything you can do to reflect the authenticity of your culture and empower your team to have some fun at the booth, and then turn that into an opportunity to capture content and show off that fun in action is going to generate buzz and attention at your booth. It's going to give you great content that you can use downstream, right? And it reflects a fundamental strategy of putting the experience first. That booth, while yes, they can talk about their solutions and services, clearly put experience first to capture attention, to be the hook. And then the line and sinker are the actual products and services, how they establish themselves through their quality work and authority in the industry. Right? Now, show event coverage, right? Showing off your booth, activating your team to be capturing content at your booth is naturally going to create energy. So even just having your team with their mobile phones out, capturing different angles of the booth, interviewing each other, going around to the actual other partnering booths and some of the major fun events at the show all helps establish buzz for your team, right? If you're walking around capturing all the content and you've got your company's name badge on, that establishes some interest, right? It's going to get you active. It's going to get your team active and in front of the rest of the industry. And nothing endears people more to you, honestly, nowadays than giving them that 15 minutes of fame, right? Than using content capture as a way to show interest in what the whole industry is bringing to the table. So if y'all sort of put that responsibility on your shoulder of being the ones that show off the breadth, the work that went into the event, that does a lot to, in the moment, show off that this company cares about the whole industry. We should trust them. But then also down the line, you've got really cool content to show off of your presence at the trade show, showing that you're there to not just make sales, right? But you're there to be a part of a community. So, for example, this could take on the form of just some straightforward compilation content. Right, I'll just mute this for now. But as you can see, right, this is all user-generated content. It's teams having fun. It's products being shown off. It's the whole event. It's not just look at our stuff, but it's look at the dynamism that we were a part of, that our community was a part of, right? You can then use this to re-promote for future shows. Come check us out at XYZ booth, or if you're giving a presentation at a different demo room. So how does this translate to studio? Well, step one here, as you can see, this requires some basic activation of your team. And studio is built around getting your team in the platform. It's straightforward. It's easy, and you can actually structure this based on the kind of accessibility that you want your team to have. So before the next trade show, everyone that's going to be there, not just marketing, your sales team, right? Your product engineers, let's say your SMEs, could even be C-suite that's going to step out. Maybe this is a big one where you have some of your C-suite or your VP is giving a talk at the show. You could very easily add them into the platform, give them, whether it's standard access or VIP guest pass access, which is limited access to just tools and content they've created, or even admin access. You can get folks into the tool to submit and upload content themselves, right? And this begins the long-term ecosystem where content becomes the shared language of your team. And so now you've turned your sales team into content creators. You've turned your C-suite into content creators. And of course, you've helped your marketing team decentralize content capture. So get your crowd in the platform, and that's going to help you activate show event coverage at scale. Because now it's straightforward to go capture content with your phone, and then at the end of the day, upload it into the platform, right? Or from webcam, right at the booth, giving a little recap. Hey, it's lunchtime, self-record into the platform and give some thoughts on how the show is going. Anything to turn into a great asset downstream. Okay, some other content. In-booth product demos. This is a big one, right? Product education is huge. No trade show is complete without a little product education. What you can do, though, is turn your product education into an event. It doesn't just have to be your presence, some flyers, and if someone comes up and asks, what is this? A little demo breakdown, right? Product education can truly be an event. You can thematize it. You can host loud and proud booth demos, right? And schedule them and promote them ahead of time to attract crowds. Then you can capture them on camera and during the demo, actually encourage Q&As with the audience you have, right? If you got to plant some folks in the audience, that's fine. But again, it's about generating excitement at your booth and using a pretty traditional aspect of trade show life, using that to create more buzz around your actual presence at the show. So check this out, right? With our partner Premio, we captured some content here where I basically interviewed them on their product suite one by one, and with the big camera crew, with a little personality from the voice of B2B, we injected energy into the booth, which actually drew attention. Right? We were just capturing quality content, but the net effect was showing off the product in this sort of focused, high energy way, brought people to the booth. Hey, what's going on here? Oh, this looks official. Oh, interesting. What are they talking about? And it actually started to draw an audience of folks, right? And this is all pretty straightforward.
That middle tier, go ahead and break down some of the key specs that we can find on this computer and why those specs help represent the sort of middle tier of edge computing needs for the industry.
Right. And then,
in the form factor, we definitely go be.
And then you get your SMEs shining, right? And showing off your products in a more useful way for scaling all of your content output, but also your business goals, right? This is going to help create not only more downstream lead gen when you've got accessible product demos at the show that you can edit and then flip and publish, but it's also going to generate buzz at your booth.
That right? Middle tier.
This can also take on the form of just individualized product demos where we've got Colin here breaking down and then showing off. I'm just going to mute it so I can keep chatting, but showing off their product here, right? Their edge computer, which can get very hands-on, but also give you content that you can flip and turn into a more dynamic edit, right? So check this out. We took this and then leveraged some of MarketScale's 3D services as well with our sister company, Mainstay Digital, to show off the product more in depth, right? break it apart and get really dynamic, right? This is all happening after the fact, but capturing content at the booth in this kind of high energy, dynamic way gives you the downstream assets you need also to build more engaging content as well. And it all starts by first thinking booth experience. So these things aren't separate, right? And the tool that makes this easy with MarketScale Studio is our on-site video booking tool. This is now baked into the platform. You can book a cinematic video shoot for your trade show right in the platform, managed in the platform, regardless of if it's in Chicago or China, right? So up here at the top, on-site video, you can now book content capture for, it could be a facility shoot, it could be a trade show, obviously, right? It could be an education event. But again, for trade shows, right, you pick what kind of shoot, you match it to the videographer. Actually, we'll match it to the videographer, right? Just like Uber, we pair you with someone that's going to complement your needs, the deliverables, your brand. And then all pre-production is now streamlined within the platform so that you can focus on experience, right? You can focus on putting together a great booth and not stressing out about, is Bob going to show up on time Tuesday at 9 a.m.? So again, you could book anywhere in the US, you could book internationally, but this is now all localized in the tool. So for your next trade show, right, take advantage of this and tap into some cinematic content that you can use to not only, you know, flex a little bit on the rest of the trade show to draw some attention. Nothing draws attention more than a Hollywood shoot, right? But then, of course, capturing high quality content that you can leverage for an ecosystem of coverage downstream. Next up, testimonials, right? This is huge. Testimonial content is really powerful because it accomplishes some of what we were talking about already, right? It creates buzz at your booth, you know, when you empower third-party voices, but it also shows off to the community that you have an active user base. So if you have other clients coming to the show, right? If you invite some of your solutions, you know, best champions out to the show, you can turn something like a product demo into a tangible, passionate, and hands-on testimonial that you can actually thematize, right, and turn into an event itself. Right, Tuesday, 1 o'clock, we have our, you know, doctor sitting down and showing off our new CAT scan machine in action. Hear from him why this is the new revolutionary standard for imaging solutions, right? And that's not something I pulled out of thin air. That is the example here, actually, right? So check this out.
Of those three-dimensional objects, because capturing in
this doctor is an actual user of CurveBeam's high-rise machine. They brought him out to this show, had him use the tool, and have him explain in real time how it makes his life easier. Okay, that is way more powerful than hearing from your product marketing lead, right? Having the actual voice of your customer at your show and having them show off your product and turning that into an event in and of itself, into an exciting aspect of what's going to draw people to your booth, seeing the product in action and hearing from real users of the product. That's powerful. And that's going to activate your community. Right now, this you can capture as well with the on-site video booking feature, getting a crew to capture this in cinematic quality. But I want to challenge you all to think too about how user-generated content can capture this exact same thing, right? Because with user-generated content, you can capture a bulk of testimonials, or you could even ask, you know, your clients to self-record content there at the booth using some kind of iPad setup on a little tripod, where you can just have them record there at the booth, turn your booth into a content capture ecosystem, and then upload it directly into Studio. And that's where the tools come into focus here again, right? Self-recording and uploading content is made very straightforward in Studio so that you can get all of the content from your trade show into one centralized hub, but in a decentralized upload fashion, where you get, whether it's your clients or your teammates, your sales team, your marketing team, your engineers, to capture and upload content at scale for you, whether it's simple, single, one-off recorded content, or whether it's bulk uploaded content from, the end of a trade show day. Let's get a little more creative here. Thought leadership interviews. So this is something that I do myself when I go to trade shows on behalf of MarketScale. Right now, I'm a journalist, but I challenge you all to step into the shoes of the journalist here. Right? You can turn your booth into a hub for earned media for the industry. I'm going to say that again. You can turn your booth into a hub for earned media for your industry. Much like a podcast can act as a hub to platform other key voices in your industry and establish authority, so too can your booth, right, become that kind of hub at the trade show. So as you have folks come to your booth, as you have folks ask questions about your products or show interest in your products, you can have them become essentially thought leaders, where you become the outlet for them sharing that thought leadership, which you can then show off at the booth. Let's say you have some digital signage, or which you can flip and post on social media to show off that y'all are not just there to sell, but you're there to tap into the real conversations of your industry, right? Thought leadership establishes authority, and it shows, again, that you're plugged into major issues and trends that shape your community. And it gives your community that 15 minutes of fame that most people love to flex and reshare with their grandmas, right? That never hurts. Grandmas are our best evangelist. So, for example, this is content I captured myself at GSX 2023. And this is all content I captured on my mobile phone, right? I'll play a little of the audio.
Including your partners, your suppliers, your clients, consultants, so that they all know and understand.
Right, crisp audio, courtesy of this DJI microphone, all mobile captured, all high quality, branded and turned into industry thought leadership. Right? If you turn your booth into this kind of hub where when folks come to your booth, they get the chance to, on behalf of your company, share what trends are getting them excited at the show, what technologies are cutting edge that they think more of the industry should know about. Maybe you ask them something thematic that relates to your industry or your company. So if you're an edge computing company, you could ask them about how edge computing is impacting their slice of the industry, right? How is edge computing impacting your manufacturing operations? How is it scaling your output? How is it tapping into new data that you hadn't, had at your disposal in the past? It can be really focused or it can be really broad, but regardless, the net effect is that you platform these voices and you become known as a hub that shares real thought leadership, real hot takes that are of consequence to the industry. So this is huge. Turn your booth into a thought leadership hub. And downstream from that is podcasts. This is even like more exciting, in my opinion, than just like a step and repeat of your logo and doing thought leadership interviews, right? But actually screaming out community by turning your booth into a podcast hub. Podcasts are an event in and of themselves. I mean, I shouted out Jeff literally here on this webinar. When you've got yourself a nice microphone sitting in front of you, that establishes some authority, right? You don't have to even say anything to be like, that guy knows what he's talking about. He has a $500 microphone, right? So podcasts scream community. They're an event in and of themselves. They attract attention when you've got dynamic conversation going on at your booth, when your booth is themed around that conversation. And they can serve different roles. They can be open season to platform other great thinkers or attendees who come to the show, right? Establishing brand awareness and authority. Or they can be part of sort of a planned ecosystem of content that you then promote, where folks can come in and tap into a live podcast. Be part of the event of this conversation. Don't miss out. Use a little FOMO to get folks to your booth. This can then be recorded and be a live conversation, which you then publish as a podcast, and obviously also use to stimulate the crowd at the show. So it could just be something as straightforward as me hosting a podcast with product marketing specialists, or it could be as in-depth as what Verizon's healthcare division did, where they launched a version of their podcast, Healthcare on Air by Verizon, at the booth. They built their booth around these podcasts, and then they recorded dozens of conversations, some planned, some spur of the moment. Somewhere in the scope of conversation, someone comes up and expresses interest in your booth. You can say, rather than having to just lean on the same old tired messaging of your product, you can say, hey, do you actually want to join us for a podcast? We've got a slot at 3 p.m. I'd love to actually learn more about what, you see moving the industry forward over the next 5 years. That is going to establish authority. It's going to establish credibility, and it's going to make you seem a dynamic member of your industry because you care about platforming the real conversations impacting your industry, not just showing up at the trade show to sell. The selling happens downstream after you've established that credibility and authority, right? And check this out. You can do multiple shots, right? So this cannot, it doesn't just have to be one static webcam capturing a conversation, but you can really get in the weeds here and you can do a multi-shot podcast, right? To inject a little dynamism into the post show too. And this is made straightforward with MarketScale's conversation room where you can record your podcast. Some of y'all might be familiar with doing this on a virtual scale, much like this, but you can do so in person as well, leveraging this tool. And you can do so without a heavy crew, without a giant lift of organizing, a cinematic shoot, or then dealing with the downstream edits of having to then chop up terabytes of footage. Instead, what you can do is you can coordinate with your team to have a few different webcams set up, or even mobile phones on tripod. You have those phones log in to the recording room, and then you can capture a multi-shot conversation that you can then edit in post to feel like one fluid and live style broadcast, but obviously in podcast form. So really flexible tool here. And I challenge y'all to think about how to use it at a live event, not just for virtual recording. And this is probably my favorite use case here. Last but not least, mass community engagement. So you can gamify content capture at your booth and use it to engage your audience at the trade show, the rest of your colleagues, even other folks, that are showing off their products next to you. Using a QR code, for example, you can leverage mass content capture using MarketScale's open request link to capture content from your teammates, booth attendees, right? They can submit videos easily. Or you could, let's say, gamify something where you ask your audience to send in the best video of them using your product, or them, in the demo, or playing Forza racing. I mean, I've seen booths that have nothing to do with video games plop down a Switch and have folks come over and play some video games, right? Have them capture that content, have them show off, the crew sitting down and crushing each other in Mario Kart. Whoever has, the best Mario Kart celebration, you win X. We're going to show you in the booth, right? Doesn't even have to do anything with your product or what you're selling specifically, because it's not about that. It's about energy. It's about booth experience. And it's about giving the trade show something to talk about and something to remember you by, where by the time they actually need your services and solutions, you've already planted the seed of credibility, relatability, authority, right? So for example, we work with the Amazon Black Employee Network. At one of their conferences they hosted, they did this exact strategy, leveraging MarketScale's open request link they attached it to a QR code, and then with the prompt of upload any content you took during the day, right? Very straightforward. They got dozens and dozens of videos that they now can use for a mass montage showing off how dynamic, personal, real this community event was. Imagine that at your trade show booth, right? Downstream from a quality experience, right? And that content can look something like this from Big Joe Forklifts, where they got content from their internal team as well as from folks that were visiting their booth to show off their products in action and to decentralize their content capture. Obviously, that's powerful for the marketing folks here on the call, but also to activate their communities using content. Right now, all these folks who submitted content that they turned into their recap video have a more intimate relationship with Big Joe Forklifts, because content is our shared language nowadays. We love to consume our favorite videos, TikTok influencers, right? You as a B2B brand can have that same kind of connection with your audiences leveraging content. And at the trade show, when you've already got the hype of an event, you've already got folks thinking, man, I'm out of the office a little bit, it's time to have some fun, right? You can now use content to capture that latent energy and turn it into real wins of brand awareness, of lead gen, of, really establishing yourselves as a hub of thought leadership, or culture, or fun for your industry. This one is one of my favorites. PGA of America is another client of ours that we work with. They launched a "We Love This Game" hashtag campaign. And at their most recent event, they activated their PGA of America members and golf professionals to share why they love golf. Easy question, but such a personal question. I played it with my dad, right? I was almost a pro. I played all through high school, or it's how I connected with my siblings, or, it's my favorite way to justify pounding a six-pack in a single day. Whatever it is, they activated their community leveraging our tools. And they did so through content, by having content be a way to tell a good story for their community and obviously create some powerful marketing material for their team. So here's a little screen share that I captured of the web page, so you can see the breadth of the content that was captured here. But using our request media tool here, they got dozens and dozens and dozens of responses to this question, right? Some of it was at a actual sort of like setup where folks could come and self-record their content. Some of it was on the fly, going out sort of into the weeds of the event and capturing folks' commentary on the green. And as you can see, it's really straightforward. It's user-generated content. It's nothing crazy cinematic. But what matters here is that these folks were activated with content. They now feel empowered by this brand, and the event itself was given more energy because content was prioritized as part of the event. And this was again done by decentralizing and gamifying content capture with the request tool, where you can create a prompt like this, upload a selfie video talking about your favorite weekend outdoor activity, right? And then QR code and boom, content. And this is all baked into the platform to scale your content capture and then output. So I hope the message from all of this that you really take away is that you can do this too, right? These aren't foreign strategies. These aren't strategies that require months of planning. These are strategies that, leveraging some simple decentralized content capture tools and some crowd engagement tools in studio, and with some out of the box thinking around how to inject experience into your booth, right? You can use content to feed your business goals. And that's the most important part, right? Using booth experience, you can use content to feed your business goals, whether that's lead generation, whether that's brand awareness, whether that's networking, whether that's building authority and credibility, right? Or whether that's just demonstrating your product. Content can help make those business goals more achievable, can help bring swagger to your presence at the booth, and can make you stand out and endear yourselves to your communities, right? So again, focus on that intersection of business goals and content, and there's no way you can lose.